Okay. We're finding the range out for when we put in the domain values they give us. So essentially all we got to do is we got to just calculate what numbers do we get out for what they're telling us to put in. So we say if it's f of x equals negative 2x plus 6, and then we plug in a number, f of what? And this is the place where I'm going to replace it, erase it multiple times and put in the next number and see what comes out, okay? Negative 2 parentheses, whatever goes in, plus 6, okay? So let's try the first number then that they tell us. They say, do it with negative 1. So we're going to put in negative 1. Function rule applied to negative 1, or f of negative 1 equals, and when we calculate it, we say negative 2 times negative 1 is 2, plus 6 is 8. Okay, so the first range value that we've got is 8. That's the first output that we've got. That's a number out for one of the numbers they said we should be putting in. Okay, so let's do it for the next number that they tell us to put in. Next number they tell us to put in is 3. So let's say, what's f of 3? Well, that is negative 2 times 3, which is negative 6, plus 6. And what do we get? 0. So 0 is another output number, another number in our range. Okay, let's keep going. Let's erase that. Say, what if we put in the next number, 7? They want us to now use 7. We've already done negative 1. We've already done 3. Now we're going to do 7. And what is negative 2 times 7? It is negative 14. And negative 14 plus 6 is negative 8. So negative 8 is another number in our range. It's another number that we get as an output when we plug in the numbers they tell us to plug in. That's the idea of domain and range. Okay, so we've now done it for 7. Got one more number to do, 9. Let's do f of 9. Okay, f of 9 is negative 2 times 9, which is negative 18. And negative 18 plus 6 is negative 12. So that's the last number that we get for the numbers they told us to put in. And so that is our domain. I'm sorry, that is our range. The numbers out for the domain values they told us to put in. We did 9 as well, so we'll cross that off. We're done. Okay, that was the first of 3 problems, number 49. I'm going to go to the next. Okay, so here we go. We're doing the same thing as we did on 49. We're taking the function rule. We're saying if the function rule is f of x equals, find 2/5 of x, and then add 5, well then what are we going to do for all the numbers that we get? So we say, okay, that would be then f of an actual input value or domain number that they said is 2/5 of that number, whatever that number has to be, plus 5. So what's the first number we're going to put in? Let's put in negative 4. Negative 4. Okay? And when we calculate that out, we get 2/5 of negative 4. Really, this negative 4 functions as a multiplier for the numerator. So what we get is negative 8/5 plus 5. Okay? Or, turning that into a mixed number, negative 1 3/5 plus 5. Okay? So I'm going to say, okay, let me take away this 1 from here to get 4, and then take another way 3/5 away, and that becomes then 3 2/5. Okay? So that's one of our range values, one of the numbers that we get out, 3 2/5 for the number we put in. Now, if you're not sure what I did there with the fractions, practice fractions. It's not, I can't go over all of the things, unfortunately. There's no time for me to tutor you up on all of the things that you should be bringing to Algebra 1. And so study that on your own. Let me erase these. Okay, so we've got one number, 3 2/5 down there, and we've done negative 4. So let me cross it off up here. Now we're going to do -2. I'll cross it off now because we're doing it. -2, -2. And when you multiply 2/5 times -2, again, this, if it's a whole number, it's a multiplier for the numerator. So we've got -4/5. Okay. And what are we doing here then? We're saying, well, if it's -4/5, we're starting with 5, and we're taking away 4/5. So this is part of one of these, right? So there's still 4 whole ones left over, and another 1/5 left over if we took 4/5 of, we take 1, turn it into 5/5. And actually, I can write that at least. Why not? Okay. For those of you that would like to see that, we multiplied. We got -4/5, and that's the same as -4/5 plus. This is just 4 and 5/5, right? I took 1 off of here and turned it into fifths. 5/5 equals 1, so this is equal to 1, plus these 4s, there's the 5. Okay, now I have 5/5, and you can take away 4/5. So we've got 4 and 1/5 left. Excuse me. 4 and 1/5. Let's do it for the remaining couple of numbers. Okay, we did it for -2. And now we need to do it for 0. Cross 0 off on the list up here because we're about to do it. 0. 2/5 of 0 is 0. 0 plus 5, 5. We've just got an answer of 5. That's one of the numbers we get out. That was an easy one. Okay, and one more, we're going to do 3. So I say f of 3 is equal to 2/5 of 3 plus 5. 2/5 of 3, or 2/5 times 3. Remember, if it's a whole number, it's a multiplier of the numerator of this. So we get 6/5. And 6/5 is the same as 1 and 1/5. Plus 5 is 6 and 1/5. So we get these numbers as the numbers that result when we use the domain numbers that they gave us and plug it in. Okay? So if they give you a set of domain numbers and they say find the range, what they're asking you to do is, like we just did, plug in those range values or those domain values where x is and see what comes out. And that list of numbers that came out is considered the range. Okay, we've got one more slide on here. Let's see what they're giving us for the third. Okay, they're just testing us with the decimals now. First one was whole numbers, then they did fractions, now they're doing decimals. So we're just going to recreate this one more time. F of x is equal to -4.7x plus 1. And then we say okay, then f of, in this case, -1, because that's the first domain value they're giving us, is equal to -4.7 times -1 plus 1. Okay? And when we calculate it, we say -4.7 times -1 is +4.7 plus 1, 5.7. That is one of our range values, one number that we get out for the numbers they're telling us to put in. Let's cross off that first number, -1, and now let's plug in the second number being 3. So let's plug in a 3, okay, and erase this number here. And what is -4.7 times 3? I don't know if you can do these things in your head. I can say -4 times 3 is -12. And -0.7 times 3 is -2.1. So -12 plus -2.1 is -14.1. Okay? And this is one of those things that if you need to calculate it, write it down and calculate it over on the side. Okay? So -14.1 plus 1 is -13.1. That is another number that we get out for another number they're telling us we should be plugging in. So -13.1. Okay, that was plugging in 3. Cross that off. Just did it. Now, the next number that they've given us is 5. So we'll plug that in. See what results. Negative 4.7 times 5 is negative 23.5. Again, number sense allows me to do that in my head. And when we then add 1, we get negative 22.5. We're way down, we go up by 1. Negative 22.5 is another one of our numbers out. I'm going to cross off 5 because we did that. And the last number that we've got to check is 8. So let's get this out of here and do it for 8. Plug in an 8. And when we multiply, we get, let's see, negative 4.7 times 8 is negative 32, and negative 5.6, so negative 37.6. Negative 37.6. And I'm just going to verify that off to the side. I'm not confident enough in the math I just did to call it good. I want to check my answer. So I'm going to just do that and see if I did it right. 56. Carry the 5. Oops. 8 times 4 is 32. Plus 5 is 37. 1 decimal place, and it's negative 37.6. Yeah, did it right. Okay. And add 1 to it, we get negative 36.6. Negative 36.6. Okay? And that is the range, all the numbers that come out for the given numbers they told us to put in. Okay? I'll cross that off. Because it's possible that there's a limit to what you can plug in, right? And if there's a limit to what you can plug in, there's going to be a limit to what can come out as a reasonable output, because all outputs won't come out because not all numbers can go in. They're telling us what can go in. These are all the same. If you go back and watch them, it's all the same. You take the function, you replace it with the domain numbers one by one, and whatever comes out becomes your list of range numbers. Hope that helped.